Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I know I took a long break off from uploading, had to slow down the content due to things happening in life, but I want to get back into the loop. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the greatest managers of all time, one of my favorites, and also the most successful manager in Premier League history. While going around the internet, I tried searching up some information, but surprisingly so, it was actually pretty hard to find, with a lot of news outlets focusing on more recent times and on his role in the Manchester United decline. So for this video, I'm going to be freestyling. Of course, there's still some actual information in it, but not as much as my usual stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching and hope you enjoy. As a kid growing up, I always consumed football and its content. I remember waiting for the Premier League highlights show each week, so that I could see what the top level of this sport had to offer. Each time I was in a bookstore, I would default to the autobiography section, which more often than not was next to the sports one, and check if any of the stars of my favorite game had released a book. On one of these occasions, my hand happened to stumble upon a book in red and white, with a smiling man on the cover of it. The title of said book was Sir Alex Ferguson, My Autobiography. That was the first real look I had into this incredible character. What Sir Alex meant for Manchester United is probably impossible to define. However, people don't know that his success with the Red Devils is just the tip of the iceberg. Under it is a tale of great complexity. How his story almost never got underway, as he was almost sacked after the first few underwhelming seasons. Honestly, in the modern age, he would definitely have been gone, as he needed time to rebuild a team that was quite literally on the brink of relegation. This period turned out to last 7 years, as in 1990 the fans finally saw a glimmer of hope when he defeated Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final, his first piece of silverware at Old Trafford. However, over these 7 years he didn't just sit around and hope for the best. He joined at a time when managers still had full control over the club, as in the owners would tell one person to almost run the whole thing. Of course, I mean on the sporting side. He came in and straightened up the team. Those were still the years where players would drink heavily and not care about their physical form in training. Sir Alex changes, as he began implementing rules on drinking too much and not training well. If people didn't want to listen to these rules, they knew where the door was, and in fact, players did leave. He changed the whole culture of the club, taking on a team that was barely making it out of the relegation zone to making them champions in the European Cup Winners' Cup in the span of less than 10 years. As he achieved this in 1991 against Barcelona. But good habits weren't the only thing that made Sir Alex's team a world beater. He also revamped the club's youth division, bringing in new scouts which would then go on to let them get their hands on an elite youth pool, including the likes of Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, and Paul Scholes, among others. This is still widely considered one of the best talent pools to date, which would then lay the groundwork for everything that came next. Thanks to these tweaks and his unshakable mindset of always wanting to win, Sir Alex created a machine. One that would span every corner of the globe, with fans everywhere around the world, creating the commercial success and making Manchester United truly a global phenomenon. Organizing several football matches in Southeast Asia, in America, and so forth. To this day, the club still takes in the benefits from his time. All this, however, is just what everyone sees. People tend to think that United is what allowed him to become one of the greatest managers ever. But if we're completely honest, he was probably already among the greats for his stints in his previous clubs. He used to own a pub in Glasgow, and this probably helped him become the incredible manager he is today. His first full-time job as a coach was at St. Mirren. He already showed glimmers of his true potential as he brought the club up through the ranks of Scottish football, making it from the 3rd division all the way to the 1st. However, unfortunately in 1978, after 4 years at Love Street, he was fired and his methods came under scrutiny, as he was denounced by Aberdeen and it was said that he allegedly tried to bring some of the players with him, destabilizing the environment. But still, during his time at the club, he was hardworking and well loved by the fans, which led to the call of the aforementioned Aberdeen. This period is what cemented Sir Alex as one of the greats. He joined in 1978 and in the years that followed would mark one of the team's most successful periods ever. He broke Celtic's dominance on the league, winning it 3 times over his 8 years at the club. This was already enough to put him as one of the best managers in the world at the moment, but he wanted to really enter the halls of greatness. In 1983, one of the highest points in his career would arrive, as he defeated Real Madrid to win the European Cup Winners' Cup. This is like today's Europa League. However, with the exception that you didn't qualify by league positions, but by winning your nation's domestic cup. This still stands in today's EL, but now you can also qualify by finishing in a predetermined position. If you thought that winning Aberdeen's first continental trophy was good, the year after he improved, adding the cherry on top as they brought home the European Cup against Hamburg. This already made him one of the top Scottish managers of all time, but he had the chance to become legendary, which he did. After a brief period where he was also the manager of Scotland, Sir Alex took over at Manchester United. As mentioned before, he transformed the whole culture of the club, turning it around, not without a few risks, but everything paid off in the end. In his first season, when he took over in November, he managed to bring United from the 21st place to the 11th. The following campaign, there was already a small sign of what was to come as they finished second behind Liverpool. However, things started going sideways again in the 1988-1989 season, as they finished 11th, with a mediocre campaign and little to show for it. The following year, Sir Alex would be on the brink of being sacked as they lost 5-1 to City, gained 6 defeats and 2 draws in 8 matches. So his whole future hung on one game. One match that decided everything. United were barely up the relegation zone, just like they were when he was appointed. He would go on to describe this as the darkest period he ever suffered in the game. For the FA Cup third round, they were drawn to play against a very informed Nottingham Forest. It was very much in the air that United would lose and that Ferguson would have been sacked. But a goal from Mark Robins prevented this as they won 1-0 and eventually made it to the final. This would also be Sir Alex's first piece of silverware for the club after a 3-3 draw against Crystal Palace. Another 1-0 would mean that after 4 years he finally had something to show. This largely is considered the season that the Scotsman won over his critics and really gained trust as the manager of the Red Devils. Of course, the rest you already know. 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 2 Champions Leagues are just a few of all the winners' medals he collected in his time. There's a debate on his training methods, people call him a bit too much in the training room, that he should have calmed down, and obviously, I've never been in a room with a pissed off Sir Alex Ferguson, and it all comes down to preferences and managerial style. But one has to consider, had he not put so much pressure on his players, if he didn't give them the famous hair dry treatment, would he have won as much? Probably not. Usually, if a player was not satisfied with the training style or the managerial decisions, he could just leave the club. Sure, it might take some time to find a new team, but at the end of the day for me, his methods, though very severe, may be over the top, but they most definitely worked, and they were vital in the creation of the whole Manchester United brand that exists today.